If you are actually living in debt, debt after debt, and debt after debt, and it seems very difficult or very hard for you to get out of this situation, this video is actually for you. If you are living in debt after debt and it seems difficult for you to get out of this debt, you need to watch this video. You see, a lot of people actually find themselves in this situation. So this situation is not only peculiar to you alone, or it is not only aligned to you alone, or you are not the only one that is in this situation, because people are always in debt, countries are always in debt, organizations are always in debt. But the question is debt actually a good thing? Is it actually a good thing that we are actually indebted or find ourselves in debt? Well, it depends on the perspective we are looking at it, whether on a negative perspective or a positive perspective, because a lot of people are actually in debt today, and it's actually a negative debt, because at the end of the day they collect that money and that money is not actually used for something good in their life, and they are living in what I call tsunami of debt, from one debt to another debt. But on the other hand too, there are some people that are actually in this debt and is actually making a positive impact in them. Once they get that money, they invest that money into something good or something right, and is yielding what? Investment opportunities and what? And is yielding result for them at the end of the day. So it should not be a problem, because a lot of people are struggling to pay their debts now all over the world due to inflation or inflationary trend, due to the high cost of living, due to so many factors: political instability, economic instability, or ulubalos, or pandemoniums, economic uncertainties, market crashes, and the rest of them, and the rest of all these problems. So you should not be bothered, because in this video I'm going to show you a way out. So if you want to stop living in debt, there are some certain things that you need to do. You see, if you want to stop living in debt, if you want to find yourself in debt, if you want to have a result-oriented life where you have what I call financial freedom, where you have financial independence, where you have surplus value, where you are able to afford the basic things of life, then this video is actually for you. Because somebody was asking me, what is actually wealth? What's actually wealth? You see, you can say that one is wealthy, or you are actually rich, when your wealth is able to fund your lifestyle, when your money is able to fund your lifestyle. That is, when your money, which you have actually made over time through a decade of sacrifice, is able to fund your lifestyle over a period of time without necessarily bothering about money, without necessarily bothering about what? About debt or anything. At that point in time, you can say that individual is actually wealthy. So there are some certain things that you need to do if you want to stop living in debt. Number one of them is that you need to create what I call different bank accounts. Different bank accounts. What do I mean by different bank account? You see, a lot of us, we have what we call a monopolistic account. We have only one account, but that one account is not a good one. You see, if you want to make money, if you want to become wealthy, if you want to be free from debt, you need to have 3 separate accounts. Now, what do I mean by having 3 separate accounts? When you have 3 separate accounts, it means that you are able to separate your money based on their preferences. Now, what do I mean by that? You separate that money into spending, you separate that money into savings, and you also separate that money into investment. So, one thing here is that you need to be disciplined when you are having these 3 accounts, because you might be tempted, and a lot of people always make a mistake mixing spending to savings and mixing investment money with spending and savings. At the end of the day, you get confused. So you need to have 3 accounts, where you create one for your spending, what you spend on regular basis from the first month to the end of the month, from the first day to the end of the month. Then you need to have the one for emergency, in case life actually happens, where you put a certain amount of money into that account. So that one is meant for savings. Then the one for the third one is what I call the investment money. That one is what we call a decade of sacrifice. You don't touch that money at all, because that money is actually going into investment. It's actually, you are preparing for the future. When you are not working, when you are retired, or you are not doing anything any longer, something is now funding your lifestyle, there's money around there, you are making money on a regular basis, and you are not bothered about money again, because at that time your investment, your money is actually working for you. You are no longer working for money again. Do you get it now? So you need to create three different accounts. Then the second one is that you need to systemize your money. Now, systemizing your money simply means that you need to divide. I've explained that one already. Divide your money to spending, savings, investment, and make sure you are financially disciplined. You have financial discipline. Now, when you systemize your money, investment will take 30%, savings will take 20%, and spending will take 50%. Do you get it now? So you need to be financially disciplined to accomplish this goal. So number one, create 3 different accounts. Number 2, systemize your money. Then number 3, automate the process. Automate the process. What do I mean by automate the process? When I talk about automate the process, here you allow your money to actually automatically split for you. You can ask your bank, because there are some banks that actually help in this regard. You can tell your bank that, oh guys, when I get paid at the end of every financial month, automatically divide my money into so percentage. Then automatically send this amount of money to my investment. This is my investment account. Send the money there. Then automatically send this money for me to my savings account. They would automatically do that. Then this one is for my spending. Don't touch this percentage. So the bank can actually automate that process for you to make it more easier for you to achieve this purpose. So if you want to live out of debt, if you don't want to be living from one debt to another every month, every year, we are now called Mr. Debt. Do you get it now? Then you can follow this process. Create 3 different accounts, systemize the money, and automate the process. Now, you may ask yourself, how is this possible? It is possible if you are financially disciplined. It is possible if you are resilient. It is possible if you are focused. It is possible if you are determined. It is possible if you are pragmatic. It is possible if you are result oriented. It is possible if you have a positive mindset. Someone will ask me, how can you actually optimize your spending? How can you optimize your spending? We're going to look at all of them, how to optimize your spending, how to optimize your savings, how to actually optimize your investment. So how do you actually optimize your spending? How do you optimize your spending? Number 1, you need to observe what I call the 24 hours rule. 24 hours rule. Now, what do I mean by 24 hours rule? You see, before you buy anything at all, because every human being always have this impulse buying mode. You are always propelled, you're always eager to buy anything you see. That thing is always propelling you, pushing you. You are always attracted to everything you see, because there is money on ground. You have a lot of money in your bank account, so you can spend that money. But you need to observe what I call the 24 hours rule. So if you want to optimize your spending, how you actually spend your money, so that at the end of the day you will not run into debt, you must observe the 24 hours rule. Now, what is that rule talking about? It's saying here that if you want to buy anything, you must give yourself 24 hours to think about it. This now, you must give yourself 24 hours to think about it. When you give yourself 24 hours to think about it, you are going to be able to avoid what I call impulse buying. Do you get it now? At the end of the day, you are going to decide, do I necessarily need to buy this thing, or do I necessarily not to buy it? Do I need to buy it or not buy it? So you must observe the 24 hours rule. When you observe the 24-hour rule, you cannot be able to come out whether you are going to buy that thing or you are going to leave that thing. Do you get it now? Number 2 is what I call your needs versus your wants. Your needs versus wants. You see, a lot of us cannot even differentiate between what I call needs and what I call wants. You see, in this video, I'm going to clarify it now so that I can be able to understand what is your need and what is your want. You see, what is your need is actually those things that you actually needed for yourself. Like, for example, you needed what I call food. Do you get it now? Now, the question is, what kind of food do you want? Is it an expensive food or an average food? Do you get it now? You need food, but what kind of food? You see, that food that you need is your need, but the kind of food that you want to consume now is your what? Is your want. So it depends on you now. Are you spending more on what? On food consumption? because you want to live large, you have to go to a restaurant to buy those expensive food. You want to show to your friends or give an impression to people around you that you're actually a big boy. You go out there to spend those money recklessly, extravagantly, and at the end of the day, you are back to zero, because at the end of the day, you are going to be indebted at the end of the day. So your need is different from your wants. So then another one is that, do you need a car? Of course, you need a car, but what kind of car are you actually buying? That is your want. Do you get it now? So is it a Toyota Corolla, a very cheap car that you can easily maintain, or you want to go for a BMW or a very expensive car worth about 25 million, but averagely you can buy a car of 5 million naira, but now you need a car, you want a car of 25 million, but your income, your average income in a month, can you be able to support that? Do you get it now? So you need a car, but what kind of car do you want? Are you buying an expensive car or a moderate car? Then another one is that you need a house, you need a shelter. Now, what kind of house do you want? Is it an expensive apartment or a moderate apartment? Now, if you are going for an expensive apartment, that is your want. Do you get it now? But you need a house. But now, your want is what? Is that you are going for an expensive house. At the end of the day, it's going to affect your pocket, because it's going to affect your pocket by creating a hole in your pocket. What is your income? What are you earning every month? At every end of the month, what is your income? Do you need to borrow money to go and rent that house, or you need to go, or you just get a money and rent a house that you can easily afford? I could remember when I was living in Ikorodu some time ago, and one of my neighbor actually left Ikorodu. She went to go and live in Lekki, and after some time I met her in Lekki, and she was complaining bitterly that, man, the cost of living in Lekki is very expensive, the house is very expensive, everything there is very expensive. But you were actually living in Ikorodu, where you can actually live a moderate life, where you were able to pay 200,000 for a mini flat, for the 2-bedroom flat. But now she went to Lekki, where she was paying millions at the end of the day, and now she's complaining. So what is your need? What is your want? Then number 3 is what I call asset versus liability. A lot of us cannot actually distinguish between what is an asset, what is a liability. Liability is actually something that will create a hole in your pocket, that will drain your money, that will make you to be broke at every time. But asset will create value for you. Asset is what will create more wealth for you. Asset is what will create more, more investment for you. Asset is what will create more money for you. When you put more money into asset, the more you put more money into asset, the more richer you become. So when you are the kind of person that you actually invest more of your money into liabilities, you are looking for trouble. But if you are kind of the person that is actually investing your money into assets, you are good to go, because at the end of the day, you are creating more value for yourself. So a lot of us today, we're actually creating value for ourselves by investing more on assets as against liabilities. What are liabilities? Cars, expensive cars are liabilities. They are liabilities. Eating expensive restaurant is actually liability. Wearing expensive clothes or wristwatches is also a liability. Going on expensive vacation is also what? A liability. You are not going for a business, but right now you are going for a leisure. At the end of the day, you are spending 20 million for, for vacation. I remember some time ago, last 2 months ago, I met a guy that was telling me that I saw him on Facebook where he was in UK or US, and we eventually met. I asked her, I saw you on Facebook. I said, yeah, man, I actually went on a vacation. And before you know, he started complaining that it's not easy. I've spent a lot of money. Who sent you an errand? That money you actually went to waste on a 2-week vacation. Why don't you put that money into what? Into asset, and watch your wealth grow for you. And the beauty of asset is that over time, that traveling that is so big and gargantuan to you, your asset, your investment is going to be able to afford it over a long period of time. For example, after 10 years, you cannot go for what? Your vacation, anytime you want without any problem. Then number 4 is what I call the 5 rules of money. The rules of money. The rules of 5. The rules of 5. Now, this one is very, very simple. What it's saying here is that if your money cannot afford 5 things, don't think of buying one. Very, very simple. Very, very simple. What we're saying here is that if you want to buy a phone of 200,000 naira, you should be able to have 1 million naira in your bank account to buy a phone of what? Of 200,000 naira. So if your money is not up to 1 million naira to buy 5 phones, then you shouldn't buy that phone. That's the rule of 5. That is the best way you can actually become wealthy in life. So what the rule of 5 is saying is that if your money cannot buy 5, you don't need to buy 1. But if your money can buy 5 of those things, they can buy one of those things. Very, very simple. Now, another one is what I call number 5, avoiding what I call financial liabilities. A lot of us are actually financing liabilities. You buy expensive cars. At the end of the day, you buy fuel, you do maintenance, you buy the car, you buy it on credit, lease or credit basis. You are paying some certain amount of money to the car company that you actually bought it on credit for them. Then you're also fueling the car every day. Fuel is very important. It's very expensive now in Nigeria that if you don't have money, you don't even need the car. But till now, some people want to show that they have money. And at the end of the day, the hard-earned money that they are using to earn at the end of the month, they are using it to fund liabilities. And that's why at the end of the day, a lot of people do not have any savings account. A lot of people do not have any investment. In fact, a lot of people are sitting on the keg of gunpowder that when it explodes, where is it going to land you? When the job is no longer there, that car is actually a liability. It's not creating any value for you. The house that you are living in that is very expensive, you are paying about 5 million naira every year for that house because you want to show that you're a big boy. It's not creating any value for you. You can actually go out there and rent a house of 500, 600,000 naira and keep the remaining 4.5 million naira and invest the money instead of living that flamboyant, very expensive big palace or empire that you're living in that is creating a hole in your pocket and you're actually complaining. So you're actually financing liabilities and liabilities are actually creating a hole in your pocket. Now, I'm looking at another one. How can you actually optimize your investment? I've talked about spending now. Now I'm going into what we call optimizing your investment. You see, when you are talking about optimizing your investment, you need what I call strategy. You must develop what I call a strategy to make wealth. Now, what I mean by a strategy to make wealth is that you must develop the ways or medium through which you can actually invest your money and make more money. You can invest your money into stocks, you can invest your money into real estate, you can invest your money into shares, you can invest your money into crypto, you can invest your money into what? Into multiple streams of income that will actually create more wealth for you at the end of the day. So you need a strategy. So your strategy is where do you actually want to put your money and make more money at the end of the day. Are you putting your money into stocks? Are you putting your money into real estate or crypto or shares or crypto or or real estate? Then you need to understand also that there are two things that you can actually do. There are actually two forms or two kinds of an investor. You can either be an active investor or a passive investor for you to actually have this strategy. Do you get it now? So part of a strategy is either you are an active investor or a passive investor. Now, a lot of people ask me, what's an active investor? An active investor is someone that has an history, idea, experience about what? About stocks, about investment. But if you are not, if you don't have that idea, if you don't have that experience, you don't need to be an active investor because being an active investor is very dangerous. You can lose your money, all your money within the twinkling of an eye because now you are the direct investor. You are the one that determines when to put the money, when to buy or when to sell. But if you don't have that energy or the experience or the financial education, you can be what I call a passive investor where somebody else is managing your business and you are stress-free. All you need at the end of the day is commission that is given to you. Active investor, the danger is high, but the turnover is high. But on the part of what? Of passive investment, the risk is very low, but the turnaround is what is lower. Do you get it now? So, but I will rather suggest, because that's what I'm actually doing. I'm a passive investor because I don't have the time to investigate, to do market research, do a lot of things about market and all those things. So I would rather prefer to be a passive investor where I earn money every day. In money market fund, they are paying you about 23 point something percent per annum based on your total investment in a year. So you can imagine, if you invest 20 million naira, you are going to get 4.3 million naira as a return on investment per annum. That's a huge amount of money. So that is passive investment for you. So the secret of investment is that you must keep investing. You must keep investing. You must keep investing. You must keep investing. Then you are building a decade of sacrifice. You are building what I call generational wealth. Even when you're not there, your children are what? Are well-to-do, and they are well-balanced financially. They have nothing to worry about financially because you have actually worked for them, and that generational wealth can actually be transferred from them to their own children as well. That's what I mean by generational wealth. Then another thing, which number 2 on how to optimize your investment, is what I call research. Before you go into any investment, you need to do what I call due diligence research on where you are actually trying to invest your money, either as a passive investor or an active investor. You must do what I call due diligence research. You need to meet your portfolio investment manager, because I could remember when I wanted to start investment, I met with my portfolio investment manager. We spent about 1 hour thereabouts. I was asking so many questions, and she was willing to answer me all those questions. Then at the end of the day, I decided this is where I'm going to invest my money, because this one is more profitable than the other ones. So you need research. You need to do what I call due diligence. So as an active investor or as a passive investor, you must do your due diligence on where you actually want to invest your money. You do a due diligence research, you can actually be able to invest your money smartly. Then another one is what I call execute. Now, execute is very, very important for you to actually be able to optimize your investment. Now, when you talk about execute, we're talking about the strategy on how to strategize for a long period of time. You are talking about, or it means sticking to your strategy for a long period of time. That's the meaning of that word, execute. So when you talk about executing, it means that now you are going to invest your money. Now, what is the strategy that you need for you to be able to have returns on your investment, even irrespective of economic condition or economic palaver or whatever what happens, you are still going to keep investing. So your execute should be a long-term execution. You must have a strategy for a long-term execution. So when you talk about execute, it means sticking to your strategy for a long period of time. Because I can remember, history has actually taught us that there's always financial crisis all over the world at a particular period of time. I can remember in the year 2008, there was a financial meltdown. In 2020, there was a financial meltdown. In 2022, there was a financial meltdown. In 2025, there is also a financial meltdown. Now, the question is, in this financial meltdown, what is actually your strategy? Are you the type that when there's actually financial meltdown, you panic, and when you panic, you sell off your stock, you sell off your shares, you sell off your investment? Or you are the kind of person that even in terms of this economic pandemonium and palaver, you are still investing more money? You see, this is one of the secret of the man called Warren Buffett. Whenever there is economic ulubalu or economic crash, that is when he will buy more shares, he will buy more investment. And at the end of the day, he's actually working for it, because at the end of every tunnel, there is always a light. At the end of every financial crisis, everything will bounce back to normal. So you must have an execution. You must have a strategy for a long period of time. So during a period of economic crisis, people always sell their investment. But at this period or time, you are not supposed to panic, because economic recession, economic crashes, economic pandemonium, economic ulubalus will always create a lot of millionaires and billionaires. Then the last one is what you can actually optimize your savings. I've talked about how you can optimize your investment. I've talked about how you can actually optimize your spending. Now, how can you optimize your savings, which is the last one? Number one is that you need to have what we call a goal. For you to be able to optimize your savings, you must have a goal or a strategy on how you actually want to save your money. Now, when you talk about a goal, we are talking about systemizing your money. Your money should be able to cover you in terms of any form of emergency. So you must have a saving, you must have what? An investment, and you must also have what we call spending. So what we're saying here is that you must have a goal, and part of your goal is that you must be able to systemize your money into spending, into savings, into investment. And your savings must be able to cover you at least for a period of 3 to 12 months in case of any emergency. Do you get it now? Then your savings should also be able to give you a cushion in a period of emergency, or in case of emergency. When life happens, you should be able to survive, because right now we're now in an economic situation that people don't even save money, not to talk about investing money. Now imagine if life actually happens to those people. Maybe they lose their job or anything. They are back to square one. They are back on the street begging for food. In fact, some people, after losing their job, maybe a period of maybe 3 days, they are back on the street because there is no saving, there is no investment. There is nothing to fall back on. So your savings should be something that you can actually fall back on in case of any emergency or anything actually happens. Do you get it now? So being wealthy simply means that you have an investment that can actually cover your expenses. Do you get it now? So you need to optimize your investment, you need to optimize your savings, you need to optimize your spending. And I believe you have actually gained a lot of things. So when you talk about somebody being wealthy, are you in that wealthy class, or you are in that class of debtors that are living from one debt to another? But I believe that by watching this video, you have actually now learned how you can actually optimize your spending, how you can actually optimize your savings, and you can actually optimize your investment. If you have gained something from this video, now it's time for you to subscribe to my channel, share the video, and don't forget to like my video and leave your comment on how I can actually serve you better. Till I see you next time, thank you and God bless you all. Bye bye.